Yes, you're watching the South Australian Sports Channel. Now, Poppy, every now and then you get a guest you just can't wait to interview, and we've had a lot over the journey, but this man, Mark Reidy. Mark, how are you going?
Good, thanks.
Just a really interesting story, and it finishes up getting to cycling and a good story, which is part of what we're about, sport of course. But Mark, for you joined the Army as a 19-year-old.
Yes.
And let's just talk a little bit about your time in the Army. I mean, you served in Iraq, served in Afghanistan. Both the same, both frightening. Is there a difference between going to war in two different countries?
Oh, totally different. Different aspects, different cultures, believe it or not, both in the Middle East, but different cultures, different warfare. It's just, you don't know who to trust, and it's so frightening in some areas.
You know, we watch from thousands of miles away news snippets of action in Afghanistan or Iraq, but what's it like arriving there for the first time? Let's go, say, Afghanistan first. Arriving in Afghanistan, how prepared are you for what you might confront?
Well, you're always prepared.
Yeah.
I mean, the military that just gets embedded into you.
Yeah.
You know, in your training, it's like it's a robot type. You're like a robot. You're trained and trained and trained and trained. So when it happens, it's instinctive.
Is the training different for Afghanistan as distinct from Iraq?
Yeah.
How do they prepare you differently for those two?
Yeah, there's always different platforms.
Yeah.
There's different. Obviously, we feed off intelligence, so we have intelligence on the ground for every theatres of war. So we get intelligence briefs before we deploy. And actions on ground. So, yeah, the different intelligence to different theatres of war and what instincts they play. So, yeah, we're always prepared for, every soldier's prepared for, I was logistics, so logistics over the ground always plays a strategy. My logistics was combat logistics, which was in first, out last. So heavily supporting with special forces.
Wow.
So
Yeah, my logistics is not to be there at all.
Yeah.
In first, out last, mate. Not really anywhere near it. 2004, there's a mortar attack, and you've got to jump, and you injure your back. Can you tell us what happened there?
Yeah, we were based at Baghdad Airport. It was still called Saddam Hussein Airport, but we tried to change. Actually, the Anzac Spirit trying to steal the signs off the tarmac there, but it didn't work. We were getting heavily mortared by the insurgents then. We were actually building a mortar type evacuation area, so when we were getting hit, it was sort of like a hub where we can be protected. We were sandbagging it. And at that time, we were getting RPG'd. I was
What's
on
that
top.
RPG? What's that?
Rocket propelled grenades.
Okay,
Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, no, it's all right.
Not familiar with that?
Yeah. Well, RP was Rob Popplestone. How did I get involved in this?
Yeah, gutless.
RPG. Yeah, that's right.
So one landed in a compound next door.
Wow.
And I fragmentation hit, and I jumped, and injured my L4, L5 lower back in consequence of that.
Mate, then you come back, bounce around a little bit, and there's some commendations, and we'll talk about those. We don't want to gloss over those because they're well deserved. Then you've got to try and assimilate back into normal life. Now, you went into a pretty dark stage there for a while. Cycling was able to bring you out. Can you take us a little bit for the viewers on how you got into the dark stage and how you came out from the dark?
Definitely. I self-discharged. I didn't medically discharge. I felt alone when I came back, when I was in the uniform. I was in denial, being a typical bloke, nothing wrong with me, I had a young family at that stage. I was burnt out and didn't know it. I wanted to change. I decided to get out, come back home into Adelaide, thinking that was an excuse to rest. Went into corporate world, into a high-paying job, middle management with a defence contractor, and I found myself isolating myself in the office place. I would lock my office door.
Wow.
I would hide in the corner. I would not go into crowds. I found that the corporate world wasn't the team environment I wanted to be in. They wouldn't work as a team. They were out to make a name for themselves only. And I thought, wow, I've just lost this team environment. This ethos I was with in the Army, and I'm in this corporate world where I don't want to be part of. And so I started to decline. My marriage broke up. I had my kids, thankfully, week on, week off. That saved my life, basically. That's the only thing that saved my life.
Forced to pull yourself together.
Yeah, for sure. I ended up, being isolated in my own house, and that's a common thing. Yeah.
Okay, so then 2009, you're trying to find a light, something. I mean, obviously the kids have saved your life.
Yeah, they have.
Now you need to improve on that.
I was shopping around for psychologists, counsellors for the DVA system and VVCS, which is the veteran counselling system. I couldn't find anything I could open up to. I couldn't find any mechanisms to help me control the post-traumatic stress.
I don't understand why that process isn't...
A lot of veterans find this. Veterans only trust veterans, I'm finding, in the job I am now with RSL. Veterans trust veterans. Yeah. They won't open up straight away. I needed something. I missed, believe it or not, in the Army I hated PT, but you miss it.
Personal training.
Yes, I got that with personal training.
In the Army I hated ironing, but I love ironing. I find it therapeutic now.
Yep.
So
what's your address again?
My partner now loves ironing. Loves me that I iron. So it's therapeutic. So you miss these things.
Yeah.
You find that you miss it. So I'm thinking, I'll go to the tour down under, and I saw Lance Armstrong. Probably not a good example.
At that time it was good though.
Yeah, at that time it was good.
Yep.
And I thought, wow, I'll give this bike riding a go. I was 40 kilos heavier than I was now. I thought, what have I got to lose? I'll try it. 7 kilos a week, climb it to 8 every week, give it a go. I bought a cheap road bike. I started going to communities. Adelaide Cyclists was a community forum. They had some rides. One of my counsellors said, you need to meet people, Mark. Oh, right, okay, easier said than done for a guy that has PTS. Yep. So I went out and met people. And then it was comforting, Right. I found it a bit comforting because there was a lot of new people on bikes. So I did it. And then I started doing fundraising events for the REPAT Foundation.
Now let's talk about that. I don't want to cut you off, but you've done 2 rides where you've raised over $80,000 for REPAT. So well done on that.
Yeah, wow.
Both of them over 1,000 kilometres. Did you learn nothing from the first ride?
Wow.
I didn't want to stop riding.
Did you?
No, it was that esprit de corps and camaraderie.
Yep.
We had some ex-defence members and veterans involved in that, and some of the community people as well. There was 22 cyclists from the REPAT depart and go to Mount Gambier and back. It was fantastic.
Had
7
a purpose
days.
again, a mission.
A team, and it was great. It was.
Wow.
I thought, if I can do this, what else can I do in the veteran space? That's what I felt like. At that time, I moved jobs, worked for another industry in logistics, another high-paying job. And I thought, I don't want to do this stuff in the corporate world anymore. I want to work in the veteran space.
Yeah.
And I did something, probably some people looked at me weird, and quit corporate world and started volunteering in the veteran space and raising money and doing something with the bike. If it's not doing with the bike, it's doing something with kayaks, it's doing something with art groups, raising money, helping veterans find a mechanism. If I can find the bike as the bike as my therapy, maybe they can find something, whether it be pick up a paintbrush or creative writing or, a kayak or going hiking or fishing or something like that. They'll find a mechanism their way.
Yeah, well, Mark, no doubt inspiring, mate. We can sit here and talk for a long time. Certainly he rode in the Invictus Games 2016 in Orlando, finished 7th out of 45. So he has accomplished a lot once he came out of that back pace on the bike. Stay with us. Still plenty to come on the show.